My name is Pedro, and in this video I'm gonna help you build your deck for the set 4 pre-Rift next week. I'll also help you giving you advice about how to build your deck and how to play your deck properly with many examples, many tips and tricks to help you out. So let's go. At the pre-release, you'll receive a pre-release kit. It contains a pre-constructed mini deck with 15 cards, including 1 legend, 1 battlefield, 1 champion, and 12 other cards. Runes aren't included, but stores should have some available to lend to you during the event. The kit also contains 5 booster packs and a promotional card which unfortunately you cannot use in your deck. However, if you open a Riven in one of your 5 booster packs, you are absolutely allowed to play it. It's only the promo card that you cannot include. In your booster packs, the chances of opening epic rarity cards or higher are pretty low, so in this video I won't include any cards of those rarities, since the most likely scenario is that you simply won't see them during the event. In this section, I'm not only going to give you deck building advice, but also go over the pre-release rules using an example. Your deck must contain at least 25 cards. I recommend you to stick to exactly 25 cards and not going above that. It can include a legend, which is optional. It can also include a champion, which is also optional. Keep in mind that unlike Constructed, you are not restricted to playing the champion that matches your legend, and you can play up to 3 different colors. Before we continue, I'd like to make a quick detour to talk about choosing your legend and your champion. At the start of the game, you will begin with 4 cards in hand. You may mulligan up to 2 of them, then on your first turn you'll draw 1 other card. If you are playing the legend and a chosen champion, you'll effectively have access to a total of 9 cards. If you decide not to play the champion or not to play a legend, you'll get to draw 1 additional card on your very first turn. However, this bonus doesn't stack. If you play neither of them, you only draw 1 extra card. And that's why I recommend playing at least legend or a champion, because it doesn't actually change the total number of cards you'll realistically get to see during the game. Choose based on your deck synergies and the quality of the champions you have available. We'll come back to that later. In your deck, I recommend playing between 3 and 5 units that you can play on the very first turn of the game. Try as much as possible to have those units be at least 2 might. You should also be playing between 2 and 5 bombs. Cards that have at least 6 might or extremely powerful effects that can completely swing the game in your favor. Fill the rest of your deck with units that cost between 4 and 6 energy. Overall, I recommend playing between 16 and 18 units. Play around 5 interactive cards, and finish your deck with flexible cards. This includes card draw, equipments, or units with low might but very strong effects. Don't forget that you are allowed to play any signature spell in your colors, even if it doesn't share the same tag as your legend. Another advice that I want to give you is when you're going second, you'll start the game with 3 runes instead of 2. That means that you can sideboard by replacing your weaker 2 drops with 3 drops that you can play on your very first turn. As for your runes, I recommend you limiting yourself to 2 colors, but honestly, between you and me, most of the time you'll end up playing 3. Also, don't forget, it's not because you play blue cards like in this example that you necessarily need blue runes. None of these cards have a blue power cost, so you don't need any blue rune. Here's a quick recap. Play between 16 and 18 units. Don't forget that some spells or gear can also be counted as units. Play between 3 and 5 units that you can play on your turn 1. And don't forget that when you're going second, those units can cost 3 energy. Play between 2 and 5 bombs, about 5 interactive cards, and after you can fill the rest of your deck with flexible cards. When it comes to choosing your chosen champion, ideally you want one that costs 4 energy. In this set, Ambessa is the perfect example of the best chosen champion you can have. She costs 4 energy, has no power cost, and has 4 might. That lets you focus your deck building on the early game, play Ambessa on turn 2, and then spend the rest of the game playing big units and interaction. She effectively replaces the weaker 4 cost units that you can have in your deck. Jace is another good example of a champion that costs 4 energy. The downside is that he has a power cost of 1, which affects your energy curve and means that you won't be able to play a 6 drop on turn 3. On the other hand, his excellent effect and the fact that he has more might than energy make up for it. When you're going on the draw, meaning that you are going second, the best champions are the ones that you can play on the very first turn. The biggest advantage of this is that you can cut your early game units from your deck and just concentrate every card in your deck in good units and good interaction. Much like Ambessa, Zed follows the same logic by being a champion you can play on turn 2. The downside is that he competes with other strong 5 energy cards in your deck, which are generally better than the 4 energy cards Ambessa replaces. If you don't have any champion that fits either of those categories, you can always play one that comes down on turn 3. The danger with these champions is that your deck needs to reliably play a unit on turn 1 and a unit on turn 2, otherwise your board presence will be way too weak. Gangplank is a good example of this kind of champion. Just remember to balance the number of 6 energy cards in your deck. If you have too many, some of them could easily become bricks sitting in your hand. As for some general deck building advice, try to include a few cards that let you draw more cards. That can be through direct card draw or through recursion by bringing cards back from your trash to your hand. Ganking is an incredibly strong keyword because it lets you attack the other battlefield on the same turn that you hold. Accelerate is also very powerful because it lets you attack a battlefield without having to wait a full turn for your unit to be ready. In general, when you evaluate the quality of a unit, if it has more might than energy, it's a good unit. Likewise, if it has less might than its energy cost, I recommend asking yourself if its effects is good enough to be included in your deck. I want also to give you some tips and tricks that can help you win more games than you'd expect. Don't forget to empower your cards. In this example, empowering Brutal Hunter is just as good as casting spells to give it +2 might and ganking, except you don't have to spend any cards from your hand and the effect is permanent. Remember that some cards have the new flow mechanic, represented by this symbol on the left side of the card. Cards with flow sitting in your trash are basically an extension of your hand, so don't overlook at them. In general, I don't recommend holding except when you're about to win the game by going from 7 to 8 points. I'll show you an example in a moment. During my testing, I noticed that Protective Stance is an excellent battlefield when you're going first. If you can trigger its effect on turn 2 when you conquer with the 2-drop you played on turn 1, you'll draw a card, and normally neither player should ever drop back to 4 runes or less after that, meaning that you are the only one who will get the benefit from it. Speaking of battlefields, don't be afraid to play blank ones, even if it's less exciting. Now, I'd like to walk you through a few game scenarios to explain some concepts that a lot of players overlook. I genuinely believe that these tips will help you improve at the game. Let's start with this Mulligan example. You are going first and your chosen champion costs 5 energy. Which cards do you mulligan and why? Feel free to pause the video and think about it. In this example, I'm obviously keeping my 2-drop because I want to play it on turn 1. Guttural Roar is also a very good interactive card that doesn't cost any power and could help me win an early showdown, so I'm keeping it as well. Even though the other cards are tempting to keep, it's better to mulligan them away. With so few runes available early in the game, those 2 bombs could easily make your hand unplayable, especially if the top cards of your deck contain other expensive cards. In this example, you're playing Zed against Ambessa. On turn 1, you played a 2-drop and your opponent played a 3-drop. Should you try to score a point on your second turn? The answer is no. If you go in and score a point, and then develop a Zed like in the video, Ambessa can simply move in with Kale, kill your unit and score a point herself. So you're basically giving away your unit for free. This is a mistake that far too many new players make. Before you conquer a battlefield, you need to ask yourself, what do you have to gain and what do you have to lose? If, for example, you decided to move the 2-drop and reinforce it with Zed, this is way too dangerous as well, because Ambessa will untap with 5 runes and she can just play a reaction and wipe your whole board with only 1 card. Actually, the best play is to be passive and develop Zed in base and do not move your 2-drop. Now let's flip the situation. You're playing Ambessa against Zed. You just held and went up to 6 points. Your opponent is at 5. Should you, like in the video, conquer the other battlefield, go up to 7 points, and try to hold one of them for the 8th point. It's definitely debatable, but my answer is no, you don't go to 7 points. What should you do instead? I'll let you think about it, you can pause the video. To me, this kind of decision making is what separates a good player from a great one. You are spending time thinking about it right now, and this time you will save it in your future games because you are already gone through the thought process beforehand. Personally, I would pull Renekton back, play more units in my base and end my turn. Think about it. If you go to 7 points, you're giving your opponent a chance to kill your units. On Zed's turn, they can't win the game yet because they're only at 5 points. Since you reached 6 points before they did, they have no choice to hold both, go to 7, and hope to hold to 8 to win the game. By continuing to develop in your base this turn, you guarantee yourself that you will have more units, more runes, and one extra card next turn for your final push. Also, in this matchup specifically, Zed is much more stronger on offense than on defense, so by backing off your unit, you're also taking advantage of one of the deck's biggest weakness. Once again, this situation is debatable, but personally, I would have backed off. Now, I'd like to show an example on how you build your deck after opening your booster packs. At the pre-release, you'll receive a pre-constructed mini deck. Right now, as I'm recording this video, I don't have access to the mini deck lists. So instead, I'm going to build a deck using 6 booster packs instead of 5 boosters and 1 mini deck. The logic is exactly the same, and in fact, it will actually be easier during the pre-rift because the mini deck gives you a clear direction of which colors to play. The first thing you should do is to sort your cards by color. I like to put my units at the top and the rest of the card on the bottom of each column. Next, I recommend separating your rares, epics and showcase cards in their own pile on the side. These are generally the strongest cards in your pool and they'll give you a good indication of which colors you should be playing. In general, the first color you choose is the one with the deepest pool of playable cards. In this example, orange gives me a champion that costs 4 energy with no power cost, excellent mid-game and late-game units, along with 2 interactive spells very strong. Something that's really important that is missing here are 2 drop units. I need to find them in another color. I'm also missing a few interactive cards and maybe 1 or more bombs, but the priority is to find the early game units. In this case, red gives me exactly what I'm needing. It gives me 2 2-drop units, several strong bombs, and 2 more interactive spells. Now what I'm missing is enough early game units to round out the deck, and if I could get at least 1 more interactive spell, that would be perfect. Here, I can see 2 good options. Purple gives me access to 2 good 2-drop units, a card that brings units back from my trash to my hand, and 2 solid interactive spells. On the other hand, yellow gives me 1 decent 2-drop, 2 excellent interactive spells that have flow so I can play them another time, and Ambesa's legend card which lets me ready my units. To show you that you can modify your deck between games, I decided to play purple for game 1 and whenever I know I'll be going first. Then I swap purple for yellow and replace all the 2-drops with 3-drops whenever I'm going second. I also play Ambesa's Legend, which has great synergy with 7 of my units. Don't forget to pay a close attention to very specific cards that can completely shut down certain strategies. So for example here I have 2 cards that kill gears twice, so this is very strong against gear decks. This last section is specific to set 4 Vendetta. These are the cards that are worth keeping in your back of your mind during your games, because your opponent could use them to interact with you. I encourage you to pause the video and read through them one by one. Instead of having to read all 166 cards in the set, I've narrowed the list down to just 43 cards. Cards that ready, ambush or accelerate units can interact with the hold before you can have the chance to pull your units back. Be careful. Also, keep an eye on your opponent's trash because some cards have flow. If your opponent is hiding a card, here are the most likely suspects. Here are the cards that can positively modify your opponent's unit's might. Pay close attention to their speed. Are they reactions, actions, or neither? Here are cards that interact directly with your units, whether by dealing damage, reducing their might, or countering them. Some of them only target at battlefields, some of them can target units everywhere. And finally, you could run into cards that move your units around, stun them, prevent damage dealt by them, rebuild them or even return them to hand. Thank you very much for seeing my video. I hope that I could help you win at least one more booster pack during your event. If you have any questions or feedback to give me, I will be very happy to read it in the comments. So I wish you best of luck in your event and see you in the next video. Bye.